Oh, there you go. A clean one. Nah, it goes right back to it. All right, well, we are here, right back to it, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, Tiger Da.
Jim, we're going to do a history segment here to wrap things up this week. We're still getting caught up on a lot of things. Next week, we'll have guest the program back on the show, retro figures, and more. But Jim, let's talk some wrestling history. I've been organizing my programs and filing things away recently during our break, and I have in my hand 3 consecutive weeks of programs.
Uh-oh.
May 5th, May 12th, and May 19th, 1953, Dallas, Texas. The May 5th program being the final one billed as taking place in the Sportatorium for a while, as the Sportatorium had burned down the previous Friday on May 1st. The Tuesday, May 5th show would not take place at the Sportatorium. So these are the programs around the period of time where the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas burned down.
And now I guess we shouldn't just leave that dangling. And also, it didn't burn down because part of it was still there. They just kind of put the extra wall up and called it a day. But the fire was allegedly, although never proven, set by the opposition promotion because there was a promotional war taking place. And so the established promotion went over to the State Fair Park Arena for a period of time while the world famous Sportatorium was being built back up to what it then became world famous for later on in the world class days.
Well, the May 5th program, again, produced in advance. These were mailed out so people would get them in their mailboxes in advance of the show. The May 5th program, the final one produced for the Sportatorium, although it burned the previous Friday, the 1st. Down at ringside, the Dallas Wrestling War, which has been gradually spreading to neighboring cities, became a full-fledged Texas Wrestling War last week, as new promoters in San Antonio and Corpus Christi staged their initial matches with wrestlers furnished by our own promoter, Ed McElmore. Did the fans like the new deal? Well, in San Antonio, promoter Klein racked up the largest wrestling house on record in that city last Monday night, and judging from the write-ups in the San Antonio papers, the reception was enthusiastic. Then last Tuesday, Corpus Christi fans bought out the new arena as proof of their pleasure of the change. Why don't we stop there?
Bought out the new arena. Would that have been, I can't imagine that was the building that we were running in the 80s when I was there, either with World Class or later on when the Clash of Champions with Mascaras and Mick Foley, Cactus Jack was in that building. And what was that? The Memorial Coliseum? Point being, that was a 6,000 seat building. I don't know that it was that old, that it would have been around in the early 50s. And that's the point I was going to make, is that Texas back in those days, when they say, well, the biggest house ever in San Antonio or, sold out in Corpus Christi, it was not a big money, big crowd territory. They weren't like Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or even some of the bigger cities down south where they had histories of drawing these major crowds or outdoor shows or whatever. It was the days of the weekly matches where you drew 2,000 or 3,000 or 1,500 or, whatever. And so they were still in that stage of the game down in Texas at that point. Kind of like Florida.
While promoters McElmore and McLeya were rubbing their hands in high glee at the results of their initial
Come
venture.
on, McLeya.
While they're rubbing their hands at the results of the initial ventures into South Texas, we can picture an entirely different reaction on the part of the boys from the Bayou. As we reported last week, they were more than a little discomforted by the forthright challenge of Roy Dunn against their pseudo-champion, the aging Lou Thez.
Oh!
Now they are hit where it hurts most, their own pocketbooks in their own backyard.
And see that Roy Dunn was a legitimate shooter from the old days that they had brought in to be their champion because, they were trying to do the old grandstand challenge of how about our guy takes on your guy, and their guy was Thez, so they needed a shooter of their own.
By the way, 1953, the aging Lou
The
Thez.
aging, yeah. He's still on top 20 years later.
Money talks, and it talks about the only kind of language those boys understand. What exactly the conversation was all about, we don't know. But it must have been something like this. Well, boys, you started this ruckus up in Dallas, and now it looks like the fans all over Texas are about to render a decision on the match. It looks like from here, the decision will be 2 straight falls to Macklemore. The story on page 5 this week gives us only an inkling of what is to come in the way of further developments. But the word from the front office is that the news is startling, and the news is good. Promoter Macklemore has promised that definite tidings would be forthcoming next week. Meanwhile, may we remind you racing fans that the Devil's Bowl changes over to Friday nights this week with time trial. Well, that's off wrestling.
Yeah.
But you can hear they mention page 5. We'll go there, and they're basically saying next week we're really going to fuck with you. We've now come into your towns, but next week. What do you think about doing this
now hold
the program?
That's what I was going to say is wrestling wars and promotional wars have been common through the years, but it wasn't often common for one promotion to really give publicity to it and call attention to it in the programs, but they're gloating. And see, the thing is, this was I can't remember the participants and exactly the way it went, but it was a temporary split. And Ed Macklemore he would own a piece of Dallas, the Dallas office, for years after that, and still be figured in enough to where his name was still being used in the 80s when Fritz had taken over. So he lasted and he rejoined the NWA. And Macklemore, the way I remember it, Dallas was the other Texas office. Macklemore got on the outs with the NWA, and it was early in the NWA existence anyway, the early 50s. And one of the other Texas offices started getting fucking froggy in their territory, so they went back to run their towns. And go ahead, Brian, but it didn't last but another, year or so, if that, or that long?
Well, again, Dallas is a big town. We think of it as a big city. I shouldn't even say town. But the center of Texas wrestling for the NWA was Houston. The Houston booking office was the booking office. It wasn't the Dallas booking office. Fritz von Erich corrected a lot of this shit for Ed Macklemore, 10 years later, 15 years later. But page 5 of the program, Jim, once again, May 5th, 1953, startling surprises to shock Sportatorium fans Tuesday. And there's 6 question marks all around the page. Possible news? Wrestling War nears showdown. This may be the news you have been waiting for. It's good news for everyone who loves wrestling. But this news will not officially break until a few weeks. Next week's program will tell you more about it. And before we go any farther, the big news we are talking about isn't the marriage of Johnny Dobbs, who's one of the wrestlers on the show. He's building the program here as romantic Johnny Dobbs. Promoter Ed Macklemore has had his back against the wall for nearly 9 months. Facts that he should have revealed have never been revealed by him because he chose not to discredit the persons with whom these facts would hurt. Now, next week, pertinent facts never disclosed before will be revealed.
And I love this is like the way that somebody writes their own lawsuit complaint also.
You people who have wondered as to Macklemore's abrupt discontinuance of employing syndicate wrestlers since the first of the year, will have your answers next week. You fans who thought that promoter Ed McElmore was wrong about certain rights, that's in quotes, and wrongs, also in quotes, muchly publicized in local newspapers, will also get your answer within coming weeks.
It was all a raw deal.
The reason? Facts. Facts that have never been publicized anywhere about the wrestling system in Texas, about the National Wrestling Alliance. To summarize, there will be facts that clearly explain promoter Ed McElmore's position in the Texas wrestling picture, especially in the Dallas area, and more especially in the nation's wrestling picture. It will explain why McElmore is doing what the NWA once intended to do. And there it is. And then, of course, they burned down the building before the next show.
For the next show.
So let's stop there for a moment because, again, they're doing this in public. It's in their program. They're taunting these guys. They're going into the NWA cities and running against, you would imagine, established promoters. They're saying next week's the big reveal. And then the building burned down.
Wouldn't you know who won the pony?
Any thoughts on all this? I don't know if
and that again, that's why that it was so convenient that the fire just happened to occur. And that's why they blamed it on, the ongoing promotional war, which behind the scenes, and I know people are going to say Thez was involved. Thez wasn't involved in any of this. Thez was being booked by the other side because that was the NWA, and McElmore had gone off on his own and was going to reveal all these ways of how he was getting fucked around by other people. And, but the promoters on the ground in that they were taunting there, they were the ones that would have been responsible for whatever happened.
Well, the next week's program, Jim, May 12th, 1953, the Livestock Pavilion, Fair Park, no longer the Sportatorium. The first article here, down at ringside. A little over 2 weeks ago, the Syndicate had the brazen effrontery to publish a wrestling card billing Ray Gunkel against Roy Dunn. If he shows up, that's in quotes. As we told you, before this match, Roy Dunn did not show up, nor will he show up for any match with a Syndicate stooge or so-called champion unless the Syndicate agrees to pit their alleged world champion, Lou Thez, against Dunn the same night.
And by the way, that's another thing. So now McElmore has Roy Dunn say, I'll take Lou Thez on, the NWA champion. And the NWA side comes back with, well, why don't you take on Ray Gunkel first? Ray Gunkel, this was 1953. Had he just, 2 or 3 years earlier been the NCAA heavyweight champion, the same title that Brock Lesnar won? So they're like, yeah, we got our shooter. And of course, that match did not happen.
As usual, the Syndicate again acted in bad faith with the fans, the paying customers, in advertising a match for which they had no contract and when they well knew it would not take place. The fans know that any match must be entered into by both parties, and they also know that when a done match with the NWA puppets is finally arranged, it will be well publicized by both sides and the daily papers. Again, we say, and it's in caps, don't be fooled. The Syndicate is afraid to let Roy Dunn in the same ring with their appointed, that's in quotes, champion, and they will go to any lengths to camouflage the true facts. Roy Dunn has chased the aging Thez all over the country.
The aging Thez, wait a minute, he would have been 37.
All over the country, only to meet the same runaround he has received in Texas. He will not be forced into any phony elimination meet, nor will he be content with a match against anyone but Fez. This is in caps now. But he will meet Gunkel or any other wrestler they name on the same night he meets Fez. So let's stop there for a second. The old switcheroo. Hey, we can't give you Fez. We'll give you this other legitimate wrestler who they probably had a lot of faith in. Okay, I'll wrestle him if I get Fez the same night.
Yeah. Again, it's just they're selling the sleeves on their vest because they know none of these matches are actually going to take place. So they want to figure out a way to present it like their side is the most magnanimous and, we'll do this and that and the other thing. And so the fans will be on their side.
Meanwhile, here's a tip on the best way to come to the wrestling matches at the new arena at Fair Park. Merely drive into the big Cotton Bowl parking lot at the south end of the fairgrounds, walk through the big center aisle of the livestock barns, right on into the livestock pavilion.
Past the cows. Meh.
Thus, you will be protected from the weather in case of rain.
But watch the cow shit on the floor.
The new arena is roofed, but open-sided, and promises to be cool during the coming summer heat.
Oh my God, they had to go to a fucking place that didn't have walls.
You will find the grandstand seats even more convenient to the ring than the old Sportatorium, and all the conveniences that you have been used to at the Sportatorium are on hand at the
What
new
fucking
location.
conveniences? I was there 30 years later. They didn't have air conditioning. They had rats in the goddamn French fryer. The toilets backed up, and what did work of the restrooms, what conveniences did they have in 1953? Walls. They had walls.
Unfortunately, that's one of the conveniences you can't expect at the new building, but
we have all the modern conveniences the Sportatorium has, except walls.
Coming soon, the wheel. The Big D Jamboree will also be held every Saturday night at the new location, so come on out next Saturday with no walls and enjoy the Carlisles in person.
The Big D Jamboree was the country music show that they did once a week. That's why that ring in a Sportatorium was so fucking hard. It didn't move because in those days they would take the ropes down and the canvas off the ring and use it as the stage for the country music band. And those ring posts were bolted into the fucking Sportatorium floor, so they never took the ring down.
Well, Jim, one final thing here this week, and this will be a two-parter. We'll return next week with more of this Dallas Wrestling War stuff, the weeks around the burning of the Sportatorium, but on that topic...
Yes, and do they get walls?
From page 7 of the May 12th program, Sportatorium burned down. New Sportatorium is promised. End of era inspires new sports arena. As this is written, Thursday night, May 7th, we are happy to report to you that workmen have almost entirely cleared away the debris.
Oh, Christ. I think we found all the survivors
of the old Sportatorium destroyed by fire last Friday, a little after midnight. That means that soon the new Sportatorium will be going up, and that we will soon be back at the old location in a brand new building. Other good news we received today was the tidings that Doc Sarpolis returned as promoter Ed McElmore's matchmaker. A hastily written story in another page of the program tells of Doc's reasoning and returning, and we'll have that story next week here on the show, folks. Looking over the situation, we have a very nice and comfortable location out here at Fair Park for the
very nice, very evil
for the matches until the Sportatorium is rebuilt. The new arena is well roofed.
That fucking carport that we're in out in the parking lot, it's fucking wonderful.
Yeah, once again, the arena is well roofed and open sided. That's what it says here. Then there is a vast parking area to the south of the new location. The area can accommodate 5,000 cars. It's easily accessible by bus and streetcar transportation. The only disadvantage is that it isn't the same old Sportatorium. The Sportatorium was built in the Texas Centennial year of 1936.
Wow.
At that time, it was a great achievement in the architectural world, so far as arena construction was concerned.
Yeah, how they were able to build something that would hold that many people that cheap is what the achievement was.
It was a Dallas landmark. The blaze that destroyed it in less than 40 minutes will never wipe out the fond memories of the many years.
Because it was almost all wood.
Well, the fond memories of the many years.
The fond memories. I had a few fond memories in that building, and I've said before, that's what happened is it originally was bigger, but the fire primarily damaged the one side of it. So when they rebuilt it, they put that corrugated aluminum wall flat down the left-hand side of it. And that's why the inside shape was so odd, and that one blank wall that you would see the flag hanging on, was there. In the 80s, the parking lot was gravel. So what the fuck was it? Quicksand in 1953?
Well, back to this article here. But to serve the selfish interests of some outsiders, the Dallas landmark was destined to go, evidently at any cost. It will be a long time before forgetting the old Sportatorium. But as we stated to start with, the remains of the nationally famous structure are just about carried away. Now, it is time to think about the new Sportatorium. What kind of building would you wrestling fans like in the future? Any suggestions you might have as to the new plans for the new arena would be appreciated by promoter Ed McElmore. It will be a modern, brand new construction, but it will still be the same Sportatorium, just for the fans of Dallas who enjoy the Sportatorium type of entertainment, be it wrestling, boxing, or other sports, or any other type show. Just remember that the building will be there for your enjoyment. So, again, that's where we'll wrap up today. We'll come back to this next week, but 2 weeks of the Dallas Wrestling War. Next week, we got a big announcement, and then the next week, the big announcement is we're going to be here in this building with no walls.
The building burned down, so... Oh, and they had much grander plans, it apparently sounds like, to rebuild the Sportatorium than what they actually followed through with.
Yeah, in terms of the remains being carried away, I mean, if there was still that much left, you can't really pretend like everything was gone. It's kind of weird the way they're wording everything.
Well, I think there was a lot of damage to what was left, but they, again, put up new walls and they probably walled a few rooms off in that thing. It was goddamn, especially you go up in the Crow's Nest and up in those offices where Fritz had his offices and everything. And guys would go up at the top of the arena and look at the match, watch the matches through a cage apparatus they had up there. Who knows what kind of goddamn hidden chambers were in that thing? There was actually, not only was the ring posts bolted to the ground so you couldn't remove the ring, but there was some type, Joe Pedicino told me this, when he was running Global down there and was trying to get a new ring, because that's the first thing I told him, get a new fucking ring. You know, the guys are killing themselves. He said it's bolted to the ground and there's a door underneath the ring, a hatch door that leads to something. He said, do you know what that might be? I said, no. And I don't know if he ever looked.
Well, as we said, we shall return to this story next week. For acoustics, Jim, what's better, no walls or no ceiling?
I tell you, the acoustics, it depends. If it was a tin roof, which it sounds like it was, that was probably louder than having walls but no roof, because the sound goes up and then gets reflected back down.